I'll just take it off there. Thank you very much. This one Tony Bennett did the other night. He took the microphone and talked about how drugs ought to be legalized in this country, and it was a big hit for the Grammys. And you think, where has he been? For those of you who are associate members, in keeping with the tradition of my office, in community and constituent services, big boxes, heart-shaped boxes of candy are on sale at CVS, down from about $34.95 or $39.95 for $20. Here's your warning, and if you go home without one, it is your fault. I went home with one last night. Now I'm probably going to mess up something before the end of the day, but I did the candy yesterday. But I appreciate being here because a lot of us who are Republicans owe the fact that we're able to serve to Republican women. They've been as important a force for the state of Texas as anyone else. And so I always consider it a privilege to be able to come here. I'm the one candidate who's not from Odessa. But I think if you talk to your local elected officials, be it the mayor or the county judge, the city attorney, city councilman, I think that they will tell you that I have represented this community like I grew up here and lived here. Because if you think about it, all the people, whether you're in Winkler County or Sherman County or Ector County or Crane County, they're people with the same sort of concerns and aspirations, concerns for the family, aspirations for their children. Those don't change. They also have some real reservations that have to be addressed about government and concerns that have to be addressed. I'm the one candidate in this race who comes from small business. 35 years of realizing that every payroll had to do with our performance that week. And right now in small business, trying to hire truck drivers is one of the biggest challenges we have. They exist all over the state. When I was running in 2008, two of the biggest concerns in the state of Texas in this district were taxes and immigration. And I think we dealt with those. When I spoke here in the fall of 2010, we were looking at a structural deficit of $27 billion. At the end of the session, we had reduced spending by the state of Texas without raising taxes. Pretty much what taxpayers expected of us. Thank you. We strengthened landowner rights for things like eminent domain, which is very important because one of the most precious rights we have is the right to own land and property. And it's something that the government should be scrutinized very carefully before we take or use people's land and property. Water rights are now an ownership right. And I think that's a very important thing, but it doesn't address all the things about water. I love coming down here and talking about water because, in a way, Ector County is an example of all the situations that exist in the state of Texas. You've been the beneficiary of very, very good planning. You've got a good system a long time ago when you joined the Colorado Municipal Water District, one of the best planning organizations in the state of Texas, but still, it depends upon rainfall, which in West Texas can be very scarce. And so what do you all do? Continue to plan and look at things like desalination and well water and things like that. We're going to have water here for a long, long time because you all have bought into the planning process and the supply process, and it's been very, very productive. It will not be without challenges. It's not up to the state to tell you how to do it, even to tell you how you regulate it, because I'm a big supporter of local groundwater conservation districts, but to help you do that with things like our comprehensive statewide water plan and water infrastructure fund that's a rotating fund that will provide money for all the cities and communities, water districts in the state of Texas. We passed a voter ID measure as an emergency matter, which means that you have to have some proof that you're a citizen before you vote. Doesn't it seem odd that we have to talk about that in this day and age? One of our most fundamental rights, important rights, inviolate rights, and we have to have a law that says you have to be a citizen before you can vote. If you're not a citizen, you are still free to vote for the office seekers in the country in which you're a citizen. Just not this one. We strengthened state border security, and we did it, well, unfortunately, we're spending more of your money on the border because the federal government and this administration are less dedicated to that. You will hear occasionally that they have made a lot of progress. They have made some progress. A lot of that progress has been made with several hundred millions of dollars of your money that the state shouldn't have to spend. But you demand border security, and you ought to have border security. We now demand that you provide proof of citizenship to get your license, your driver's license, renewed. Once again, a fundamental right of citizenship. It's not a very big challenge to get one, but you have to be a citizen to drive a car. Judging from my mother-in-law, you don't have to be a citizen to drive a car well. We sent a formal resolution to Congress, memorializing Congress and requesting they pass a balanced budget amendment. To me, it is the most fundamental responsibility of the government to manage money responsibly. It is not an abstract, the fact that the Chinese own all of our debt. It gives them power over the way that we live and the way that we develop. It was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, former Secretary of Commerce Don Evans was speaking in Midland, and he said two of the biggest problems that we've got are our nation's debt and competitiveness. That if we abdicate our productivity and competitiveness in areas like manufacturing, we give our strength of a nation, as a nation, to other countries for whom manufacturing strength and industrial strength is what makes countries fundamentally strong. We restored more local control to school boards, which is to me fundamentally important. Recently in the Austin American statement, I was referred to as one of the real local control advocates in the legislature. It's natural. I'm the son of a school board member, and I served as a city councilman and a mayor, and I think local officials can make an awful lot of decisions all by themselves. You elect them, you can change them. We need to let them have that. So what we did with schools, we did the same thing with universities. We said, what in the way of mandates can we knock out and to make things easier on you? It's an ongoing process, and I think sometimes they weren't prepared exactly. We're working a lot. I was the co-author of the bill that did away with the tax test, which was costly, and it was troublesome, and it was convoluted. We've replaced it with a test that also is not perfect. It's better. I signed a letter yesterday to send the TEA, and there has been some discussion because that test now, which is based upon curriculum, is going to be 15% of the grade. And an awful lot of school districts said, we're not sure how we're going to implement that and how we're going to do it. The letter says to TEA, essentially, that went to them yesterday, let's wait a year to do that 15%. The schools and the kids are already making the transition to the new test. Let's get that behind us before we go further and make more demands. A couple of the things that we've worked on is to ask Congress not to renew No Child Left Behind. It is a tremendous burden on school districts, and is absolutely illogical in some areas when you talk about the demands that have been made on special education. I don't think anybody in the Obama administration has ever seen a dune sagebrush lizard. I think they know there's a tail on one end and a head on the other, and all of a sudden that justifies it being on the list of endangered species. I think it's really silly and non-productive. But if you're going to stand in Washington and say you're going to do things to make the energy industry more productive and try to implement some form of energy independence, and then you talk about reshaping the energy industry for this little lizard and not allowing a pipeline that's going to bring oil to this area and instead allow that oil to be sold to China, how is that going to make this country stronger? It's not. I have 1 minute left. I won't take the entire minute. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege of representing you for the last almost 8 years. You set a very high standard for leadership in Ector County. You also participate in that service, which in ways makes it easier because if there's something that folks in Odessa need done, you're not shy about letting folks like us know what it is. That's what you're supposed to do, and that's what we're supposed to do. But it's a privilege to be able to run again and talk about the issues facing the state of Texas. I very much appreciate your vote.